I'm Spencer Cihak. You're listening to KEDT, your community-owned station. I'm joined today by Tanya Lloyd, running for U.S. District 27. Tanya, thank you so much for taking the time.
Sure. I'm glad to be here.
Certainly a lot coming up here, a few weeks away. Just overall, how you've been feeling?
I'm a little overwhelmed, very busy. I'm still working full-time, teaching first grade. And so I'm trying to run a congressional campaign and work full-time can be a little bit daunting some days.
What are kind of some road bumps you've been running into doing that?
Well, I can't be everywhere. You know, people will call and say, hey, we're having this forum down in Corpus or in Victoria or Furia, wherever. And I'm like, oh, I'm teaching. I can't be there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday, right? And so there's a lot of things that I can't be at to introduce myself to people because I'm working. So that can be frustrating. And I'm, at the very top of the district. So from Lockhart to Corpus Christi, it's a good 2 hours and 45 minutes, maybe 3 hours to being on traffic. So, yeah.
Have you explained to your students that what you're doing, and how did they take it?
A little bit. It's, I can't really go into it too much in the school district because of, just
of course,
politics kind of in the district, and they're first graders.
Exactly.
But they do come in the morning like, Miss Lloyd, we saw a poster with your picture on it. And I was like, yeah, you did. So, but they understand that I'm running for office, and they don't really understand what that means, but they know that's what I'm doing. So
that seems like so much fun for them. They'll get to talk about it later for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But I have former students who have graduated from high school or in college or have families of their own, and they are so excited about what I'm doing, and they're pretty stoked that, like, hey, that was my teacher when I was in fourth grade, or that was my teacher when I was in first grade. So, yeah.
What made you want to run?
Bottom line is I got mad, right? I am a woman who really lost her life 22 years ago when I was pregnant with my daughter, and my opponent is 100% pro-life, no exceptions, and I know that I was very lucky the situation I was in. My daughter was born at 30 weeks, and she was a healthy 3-pound, 6-ounce baby. But what I had was caused by the pregnancy and only cured by not being pregnant. And my doctor advised me to not have any more children because I would have an 80% chance of the same syndrome happening. And if it happened much earlier in the pregnancy, I would either have to choose between losing my life or having an abortion to save my life. And at 22 years ago, I could do that. And right now in the state of Texas, that's really difficult to do with the way our laws are set up.
Certainly, SB 8 has really kind of changed the game in
Right.
Texas. Women's mortality rates skyrocketing after.
And infant mortality rates as well have gone up.
It's a really powerful stuff that we've seen so far. This is at the state level. Nationally, what would your kind of plan be going into having those conversations?
So I would like to see a nationwide, like Roe v. Wade, go back into existence, bring it back. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's in the hands of the states now. We turn it over to the states. And that's great for states that have referendums where they can put things on the ballot. But in Texas, we don't have that ability. So like right now, Florida has this on the ballot where they can pass different laws to safeguard those rights for women, but we don't have that ability in Texas, and there are other states that don't have that ability. And as women, it shouldn't matter where we live in the United States. We should have the ability to take care of our own health care without the government interference.
Very unique time, certainly. Usually this is a topic in the past that people have avoided just because of how strong it gets. Throughout this election process, how have you found the best way to have this conversation and it stays civil? No name calling, no accusations. What's
Right.
kind of been the process of being able to do that?
I think for me, it's telling my story of what actually happened to me, because I think a lot of people don't realize how many things can and do go wrong in a pregnancy, and that very seldom is abortion used for birth control. And I think that's the perception for so many people, is that that's the only reason to have an abortion. And when I explain to them, no, HELP syndrome is actually caused by the pregnancy. And the only way to solve that is to not be pregnant. And it can happen at any time during your pregnancy. So if you're far enough along, great. If you're not, we have a decision to make. And I think people do, kind of understand that and they're like, oh, I haven't thought about it like that. And, when we talk about the Supreme Court of Texas discussing how many organs need to shut down before you're sick enough to have an abortion, that's pretty scary stuff. And people don't keep up with those kind of things. So when we explain that, they kind of take a step back and relook at things.
I'm curious, just your thought on doctors, right? Obviously, women are facing a lot of repercussions along with
and the
certain
doctors too,
infants.
yes.
But the doctors are the ones that are going to be facing legal action should they perform one.
Absolutely.
Healthcare, obviously, a big issue here in South Texas. Some places are considered deserts. Just do you think that layers in at all, and how would you like to fix some of those deserts?
So absolutely, we've lost obgens all over the state of Texas because they're afraid to practice here. And we need to be able to bring them back. And they're not going to come back until we're able to fix the laws in Texas to make them safe doing their job without fear of repercussions of, criminal charges. So we're going to have to be able to, fix that before we can bring them back. And, in this District 27, it's a 14-county district. There are many counties, including the one I live in and the one next door and the one south of me, that do not have hospitals with L&D units, labor and delivery units. And so some of our women are having to drive an hour plus to deliver a baby. And so we know about those healthcare deserts. And, there may be a hospital, but they may not have an L&D. And so women really have to plan, like, I'm due this date, so we need to plan an induction so that I know I can have this baby in a hospital and not in an ambulance or in the car on the way, right? So, yeah.
What are some steps you feel like the federal government can do that you could work on in D.C.?
So those steps would be, first of all, bringing Roe v. Wade back to protect women. And once that happens, then those doctors will go, oh, yeah, I can go back to Texas and practice, right? So that would be one step. And then also encouraging more students to go into medical school, and then encouraging them to come back to their hometowns to practice. I kind of compare this to Texas Tech with their vet school. They just opened a new vet school a while back. Their only emphasis is large animal, and they want their students to go into West Texas to practice because they're losing veterinarians left and right because the average age is over 60. And so they built this vet school and they're encouraging them to go practice there. And so if we could do the same thing with people, have a medical school, whichever one it is, we could pick one that's already there and encourage these young people to go back into their hometowns or go back into these health deserts, whether it be with tuition assistance or loan assistance afterwards, things like that, to encourage them to go into practice in small towns. And I think that would be a good step towards helping to fix that problem.
Another hot topic right now in D.C., immigration. You hear it everywhere. Operation Lone Star locally certainly has been controversial between the federal and state. What do you think Texas's role should be, and what would you like to see happen in D.C.?
Well, we need to enforce the laws that are on the books already. I think Texas, in my opinion, has overstepped their bounds a little bit. And I've been down to the border. I went to Eagle Pass over the summer and visited with the sheriff, visited with the immigration attorney. Different people that live in the town were able to go down to the river and see the buoys with the razor wire and the concertina wire and things like that. And they want people to come over legally. But they also want it to be humane, right? So when we have people that cross illegally, we need it to be a humane, and we need to be able to send them back, in a humane way, and not have them, torn up in razor wire and things like that. That's their thing, is it needs to be humane. But we also need, we had a border bill that was shut down. I mean, it was bipartisan. Everybody said, let's do this. We're going to add all these people. We're going to add this money. We're going to, and the Border Patrol said, yes, let's do this. And then all of a sudden, oh, no, we're not doing that anymore. And so we need to go back to that bill, and we need to reintroduce that. We need more people at our border that are able to do the intake on the people seeking asylum, because it takes a long time to do that, per person at 6 to 8 hours sometimes. And because they may not have identification, they may not have, the things that they need because they've traveled a long ways. So that's what happens when we have people stuck at the legal crossings, because if you cross across the bridge at a point of entry, it's a legal asylum crossing, right? If you cross the river seeking asylum, then that's an illegal crossing. But there's so many coming in that they're just not enough time to process everybody. And so we need a way to process those people coming in that are seeking asylum.
You mentioned Senator Langford's bill of Oklahoma, bipartisanship, certainly something that's going to happen. Margin-wise, regardless of how this goes, it's expected to be really close. What steps do you plan to take to help work across the aisle to get bills done?
So I think we just need to be common sense, and we need to be nice to each other. We need to reach out with confidence, but also with grace, and put the truth out there. And we need to stop rhetoric. We need to stop name calling. We need to stop things that aren't the truth coming out. The kind of the propaganda thing that needs to stop, because when we have all of that on both sides, it's hard to reach across. So we really need to be able to trust each other again and say, these are the facts and this is what we need to do. So I think being able to reach across, there's so many people in Congress right now that want to do their job and they work really hard at it, but there are a few that are just keeping it from happening. So, yeah. I think there's a lot of people that want to work together. There's a few that are keeping it from happening.
Certainly something that often gets discussed that's also, it seems to be so divided, is firearms. As a teacher yourself, just your thoughts on the Second Amendment and if D.C. should do anything about it.
So as a country girl and as a teacher, I grew up in the country. We own our own firearms. I'm not that Democrat that's going to say, I'm going to come take them from you, even though people said, oh, you're going to come? No, I'm not. No, I have my own. We're good. They're locked in the cabinet at home in the corner. We use them for critters. We have livestock, so we keep away the coyotes and the bobcats, things like that. So we're responsible gun owners, and I know that there are a lot of responsible gun owners out there. But what we need to do to keep our children safe in school is look at a demographic of where, like, our school shooters, who are they? What age range are they? What do we need to look at? And how can we keep firearms out of those hands? And whether it be a longer waiting period, whether it be let's adjust the age at what you can go in and purchase a firearm, go from 18 to 21 to 20, whatever that age group is. Or maybe I have to take a test to drive my car. I have to have insurance to have a car on the road. Maybe we could do firearms training, and you have to take a test, and you have to, do those things to be able to carry. That's not infringing on your Second Amendment right. That's just saying, I'm going to be a responsible gun owner and do those things. And I don't think that's unreasonable to ask people to do that.
It's been a great conversation. Is there anything you've been hoping to discuss that we haven't already?
I don't think so. I want people to know that I'm here, and there is a choice on the ballot when you go in November. I've learned a lot about myself and a lot about this district. I have lived in this district the majority of my life, although it's been kind of moved around. The lines have been drawn in different places. But my family's been in Texas since the 1840s on my mom's side and the 18-somethings on my dad's side. And so I am a true Texan. That's who I am. And when people say, I want to keep Texas, yeah, we do. I want to be proud of Texas, and I want to see it move forward. But also we need to be kind, and we need to listen, and we need to accept people for who they are instead of banning or shunning different groups of people.
Wonderful. Tanya, thank you so much for the time.
Of course. I enjoyed being here.
This has been a KEDT election coverage special. Tune in to the KEDT 90.3 FM Mayoral Roundtable on October 30th at 9 a.m. And follow us on social media at Your KEDT on Facebook, Instagram, and X.